everyone. Welcome into Real Deal Sports Talk with KP. It's your boy here, June 8th, 2019. Beautiful weather here in Denver today. We're going to reach the 80s. Don't know where you're at. Hopefully, you're enjoying your weekend. Don't have too much to do. Can get some good weather or some good outdoor activities. Maybe go catch a movie, go on a date, something good along those lines. Me personally, I got a lot going on. I'm gonna pick and choose what I want to do right now. I got a few days off from the 9 to 5 until I go back in a new role. So I'm gonna enjoy myself. I'm gonna be leisure. I'll probably catch some movies. Probably take my wife out on a date. Watch some movie or some shows. Watch some NBA finals. Watch the NHL finals. Watch some baseball. Just try and relax, get the finer things in life, enjoy some sports, enjoy some family. But yeah, it's good times. I'm excited on what's coming down my path moving forward. I'm excited with some of the ideas I have for the show as I'm currently learning a new platform to do the show on. You might have been able to tell over the last few shows, it's a little different. We haven't had the music on the show and things like that. So we've simplified it while I'm going through learning the new platform, but a lot of exciting stuff going with the show, a lot of exciting stuff going in sports. We had another NBA Finals last night, Game 4 in Oakland. We had just the other night, we had the Blues taking the 3-2 series lead over the Bruins, that going back to St. Louis now. We've got quarterbacks getting paid. We've got baseball players being injured in very peculiar ways. But I want to start off today. Today I want to talk about first the NBA Finals. Came into the finals, Golden State, chance to win 4 out of 5. Golden State, chance to cement their legacy as one of the greatest teams. Coming into it, can Steph get his finals MVP? Can he be the guy? Can he get that so he can be considered like Jordan, like Magic, as one of these great NBA Finals all-time performers? What will happen without Kevin Durant? All of the focus in on Golden State, what they've done, their legacy, how great their players are. And rightfully so. When you think about it, that team has made it this far 4 out of the last 5 years, or 5 straight, right? So here they are. They're doing their thing. They're winning games. They've got superstars. They've got Steve Kerr, who's got all kinds of credit as a head coach, won all kinds of finals as a player, won all kinds of finals now as a coach. Yet they find themselves sitting in a 3-1 series hole now to the Toronto Raptors. Some people might be shocked. I'm on record. I told you guys, personally, I thought that this series would go 6, and I had Toronto winning it. Now I think if this goes... If Toronto doesn't win Monday in Toronto, then I see this series going 7 games. Because I don't think Toronto loses at home and then goes on the road to close out in Golden State. I don't see that as a likely scenario. Could it happen? Sure, it could happen. Anything's possible. I just don't see that as being the winning scenario for them, even though I took them in 6 games. Which means they would have had to have ended in Golden State anyway. I didn't have them winning these last 2 games in Golden State. So, as we've been watching this series, with Game 5 coming up, I hope it goes past Game 5 on Monday, Game 6 on Thursday, and if necessary, Game 7 will be next Sunday, a week from tomorrow. But as we've watched this, I haven't been impressed by any of the teams outside of Toronto in the third quarter last night. I thought they played pretty well in the third quarter last night. They came out shooting threes again. They missed those first, or Kawhi hit those first 2, then they missed another 2. They ended up going 5 for 7 in the third quarter. It killed them completely in the first half. At one point in the first half, they're shooting 13%. from the three-point line and continuing to throw them up against a team like Golden State, who's finding mid-range jumpers, who's trying to get layups, who's drawing fouls, and is not able to take advantage of the fact that Toronto has not been shooting well and continues to stand around the three-point line. It's like watching the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets quite possibly could still be in the playoffs if they didn't stand around a three-point line waiting for somebody else to do something. And that's what I've seen out of Toronto so far in this finals. Everybody's standing around the three-point line. It's like they think they're in a shooting contest against Golden State, which they don't want to be in because Golden State has much better shooters. Now, luckily or unluckily or just what it is for Toronto, Golden State has had injuries. Klay has missed a game. Kevin Durant has not played. Looney had the shoulder issue. Maybe Steph was sick or lethargic in a game. But I haven't been impressed outside of the third quarter of Toronto by any team so far through the first 4 games of this series. Kawhi, he has 3 30-point games in the finals. Only last night did it even seem to have an effect. And that's only in the third quarter where it kind of took over just a little bit, just enough for people to be able to say, oh, look, there's his moment. Sure, he's on track to be the MVP of this series right now. He's been getting key bench play. Kawhi is the Kryptonite for the Golden State Warriors. 2 years ago, San Antonio would have gone to the finals if Zaza doesn't land underneath Kawhi and Kawhi doesn't roll his ankle. I'm convinced of that. Max Kellerman made a good point. Golden State is on track right now to being 1-2 in finals appearances without Kevin Durant. And the one they won against Cleveland in 2015, there was no Kyrie. There was no Kevin Love. The second best player on that Cleveland team in that series was Matthew Dellavedova, or however you pronounce the man's last name. Kawhi equals Kryptonite for Golden State. And it goes back to that Zaza game. I told you guys, this has been 2 years in the making. He wanted to get back against Golden State. He wanted to get another chance at another championship. He wanted to be able to go through Golden State to do that. He has now put himself in that position with the 3-1 series lead. The only team in NBA history to come back from 3-1 down was Cleveland against Golden State. The season they won 73 regular season games. LeBron's not coming over. Van Vliet takes it to the eye, gets a tooth knocked out. That's the type of bench production we're getting from Toronto. You're getting muddy, you're getting minutes, you're getting points, you're getting effort, you're getting hustle, you're getting team play, you're getting heart. You're not getting that from the bench play in Golden State right now. You look at Toronto's bench, and you're getting good minutes from Van Vliet, who's listed behind Jeremy Lin, but Jeremy Lin's not even playing. Powell's put up some energy, been able to sustain while other guys are getting minutes on the bench. Serge Ibaka has had moments on the defensive end where he's getting blocks and looks young again. Last night he went off for 17 points or something. Marc Gasol's had his moments where he scored 17 points. Pascal Siakam has had his moments. He had the 30-point game that helped them win in the first game. Danny Green, listed as a starter, but I mean, really, he's kind of an off-the-bench type of guy. He had the big game 3, which everybody should have known in game 4 he was not going to be hot again. That's his, career path. You go back and look, every time he's had that real big game, that game where he's shooting lights out, that next game he's not. But they got it from him. Powell, Ibaka, Van Vliet, These guys, they're giving them way more off the bench, and they're not going deep into the rotation. You're not seeing Jeremy Lin. You're not seeing Moreland. You're not seeing OG. You're not seeing McCaw get out on the field or court very much. Little, I think he played in game one maybe a few minutes. But their rotation's working. They're causing troubles. And if you look at Golden State's bench play, I mean, Bell had the nice three-pointing shooting in the first game. Jordan, or was it Bell? Was it Bell? I think it was Bell. Andrew Bogut really hasn't done much. Cook hasn't done much. Looney hasn't done much. DeMarcus Cousins had, almost the triple-double in the game one, but he disappeared. They didn't even play him in the fourth quarter. Sean Livingston has not come up for this team. McKinney, you'd expect more hustle at least out of him. In the games they won, they got something out of him. They got a little bit of shooting. They got a little bit of hustle. They got some rebounding that helped extend plays and offensive possessions. But last night, the Golden State bench, the Golden State starters, at a certain point looked like they gave up. Andre Iguodala has been shooting threes. Draymond, he was told to stop shooting threes, so he didn't really even shoot last night. Klay Thompson was off. Steph was off. They looked like they mailed it in a little bit last night. Like, where are the Splash Brothers? I thought personally Klay was going to come into this series and ball out. I thought the motivation he was going to get from not being selected as that NBA All-Team was going to propel him to have one huge game, and that has not happened to this point. Steph had his 30, 40-point game, but it was nothing. They got nothing else from the rest of the team in Game 3 when that happened. So you don't have the Splash Brothers. Kerr is currently being out-coached by Nick Nurse. Raise your hand if you knew who Nick Nurse was before the finals or before this season. So they're getting out-coached. They're getting out-hustled. They're getting out-hearted. No KD. Is that the only issue? I don't think so. I don't think that's the only issue. This is still a good team, regardless of the fact of their finals record, regardless of how it's tied into Kevin Durant right now, their finals record, their finals appearances. The legacy of this team, the legacy of Kevin Durant, is drastically changing as this series goes along. As Kawhi and the Raptors put an end to their run. Now, Kevin Durant could come back in Game 5. We don't have any reports yet. We don't know. Maybe he comes back in Game 7. I was joking last night. This series has to go to Game 7. Kevin Durant's finally going to be able to play. He's going to end up coming out. He's going to put up 50 points, and Golden State will win the title then. And then his legacy blooms, and Golden State's legacy gets tied to Kevin Durant being there, and they have to then go figure out how to win another one without him. Now, they could go win one without him, like everybody was kind of talking and thinking was going to happen this year. It's still possible. They could be the second team ever to come back from the 3-1 deficit. But you look at the legacies of this team. You look at what Max Kellerman pointed out about the one possibility of going 1-2 in finals appearances without Kevin Durant. And the one win coming against a Cleveland team that didn't have their best players on the court. Now, you can only play who you're going to play. You can't knock them for beating the team they had to play. They don't get to choose that. Excuse me. They don't get to say, let's postpone this until those guys are ready because we rather, be able to keep the fans and people on the radio and TV from being able to talk about us like we didn't earn it. Now, they earned it, but they've won most of their championships now with Kevin Durant. He's not playing here. They're close to losing this one. Does that help Kevin Durant's legacy? Does that show he is the better player? Does that show how much he added to Golden State and how much they really needed him to be out there to be that other scorer? Or can somehow Golden State find their rhythm again, get back into a flow in Toronto Monday night, start hitting some of their shots, Draymond getting near a triple-double with assists and rebounds, putting in 15 to 20 points? Get something out of the bench. Maybe a Livingston kicks in 15 points. Maybe Bell kicks in 10 to 15. Maybe Looney has a big game and goes something like 12-10, which would be a big game for him. Now, the legacy of Golden State, if KD is out the rest of this time, or if he comes back, would they have 4 rings or just one iffy? Because if they win this year, it's 4 out of the last 5 and 3 in a row. Well, what would that look like? If they managed to do it without him, the storyline's going to be they didn't need Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant was just a luxury. He was the icing on the cake. They lose it. They don't win it. It's, oh, you did need him. He's the best player in the game. You wouldn't have won the other ones without him. If he comes back and saves the finals, what stratosphere are people like Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith and others out there, Shannon Sharp, different TV shows, Jason Whitlock. What stratosphere, what kind of mystique are they going to start applying to Kevin Durant as he enters the summer? What's the storyline going to be if and when he changes teams, if he goes to New York? How big is that going to grow, that name, that Kevin Durant mystique, that aura, if he comes back and does get the finals at this point? Because if he comes back and they win, there's no way he doesn't get the finals MVP. It will be attributed directly to what he's doing. No ifs, ands, buts about it. So it's going to be interesting to see what's going forward. Again, I don't think the Raptors close it out at home. I had this going 6. I'd be surprised if Golden State doesn't come out with everything they have in Toronto and try and hit them hard early and put them down by 15, 20 points and try and make this team of role players around Kawhi battle back. Because they've been able to stay in every game. They've never had a real big adversity. Maybe down 10, 12 points, I think, at the most at any time in this series. But if Golden State has one of those signature performances where both Clay and Steph go off, Draymond has the game where he's kind of the floor general, where Boogie can get 10, 12 rebounds, maybe 15 points, maybe, 5 or 6 assists, a couple blocks, be a presence. Andrew Bogut does something other than come out on the court to make sure there's 5 guys out there. Sean Livingston comes up with one of his performances on his way out. I like it. It's great. I thought this series would go 6. It might only go 5. Kawhi is clearly the kryptonite that Golden State and Steve Kerr are going to have to figure out before Monday night. 3 30-point games. 2 of them, it's like, wow, he got 30 points. It didn't even realize he was doing anything in this game. It seems like he's getting a little healthier. He goes through spouts of being aggressive throughout the game. So I'm looking forward to Monday night. I'm looking forward to the reports on Kevin Durant. I really think this leg issue is more than what it's ever been reported as. We probably won't find out until this summer when he's going through free agency what was really going on. And the storylines of the legacy and the way people are going to bash and tear apart and rip up this team, this Golden State team, if they lose, it's going to be a shame. It really is. It'll be a damn shame because this is a talented group. They're still, right now, got 2 of the top 3 shooters in the game playing on this team. They still have one of the top starting 5 in the game right now playing in this game. But they find themselves in a big hole. They look lost. They look defeated. They look frustrated. They're going to have to figure out how to get past their kryptonite come Game 5 Monday night. NBA's got other things going on. It's not just the finals right now for the NBA. This sideline etiquette thing is going to be going on for a while. You see it last night. Snoop and E40, another couple rappers. I'm going to bring them up first because of Drake's antics, because Drake acts like a clown most of the time on the sideline. I love the t-shirts. I love the trolling. That's great. I love the cheering. I love the support for your team. But you do not step on the court. You don't touch the players. You don't touch the coaches. That's how I feel about it. Now, I went and I read the NBA fan code of conduct. And I'm going to read it right now because it kind of surprised me as I read it what I didn't see. So here's what it says. NBA Fan Code of Conduct. The National Basketball Association and team arenas are committed to creating a safe, comfortable, and enjoyable sports and entertainment experience. NBA fans have a right to expect an environment where players will respect and appreciate each and every fan. Guests will be treated in a consistent, professional, and courteous manner by all arena and team personnel. Guests will enjoy the basketball experience free from disruptive behavior, including foul or abusive language or obscene gestures. Guests will consume alcoholic beverages in a responsible manner. Intervention with an impaired, intoxicated, or underage guest will be handled in a prompt and safe manner. Guests will sit only in their ticketed seats and show their tickets when requested. Guests will not engage in fighting, throwing objects, or attempting to enter the court, and those who engage in any of these actions will immediately be ejected from the game. Guests will smoke in designated smoking areas only. There will not be any obscene or indecent messages on signs or clothing. Guests will comply with requests from arena staff regarding arena operations and emergency response procedures. The arena staff has been trained to intervene where necessary to help ensure that the above expectations are met, and guests are encouraged to report any appropriate behavior to the nearest usher, security guard, or guest services staff member. Guests who choose not to adhere to these provisions will be subject to ejection without refund and revocation of season tickets, and may also be in violation of city ordinances resulting in possible arrest and prosecution. The NBA and team arenas thank you for adhering to the provisions of the NBA Fan Code of Conduct. Okay, sounds great. Did we hear anything about player safety in there? Respecting the professionals or the athletes or the coaches? No, it says don't be obscene, don't have bad signs, no foul language, but it doesn't have anything about the way they should act. The closest thing that would come to connecting to what we've seen on the courts in this playoff run is attempting to enter the court. It doesn't say anything about making contact with players, confronting players. It doesn't say anything about touching the coaches. It doesn't say anything about leaving your seat and attempting to enter the court. That's the closest thing to any of this in the Fan Code of Conduct. Nothing about the players, very little about how they really should be acting and what's acceptable. But we have split messages going on in the media right now. Oh, well, it's Drake. It's okay. He earned that right. He worked hard to get there. He's famous. Well, we don't see other famous people doing this. We didn't see Snoop and E40 interacting with the players. Were they having fun? Were they cheering on their team last night, dancing, having their drinks, doing their thing? Yes. But they were not acting like a clown. They were not acting like they were a part of it. They weren't in this weird mental state where they think that they're allowed to be this person and touch the coach because, oh, I'm an ambassador for the team. But now we have an issue with it because Mark Stevens, who at first was reported was a part owner, then it was reported that he was an investor. I'm sure eventually it will be reported that he's just some guy. But Mark Stevens, we have a problem because as Kyle Lowry goes to make a play and lands in the seats, this guy, this part owner, decides he needs to stick his hand out and push Kyle Lowry. Because he thinks he's a part of it, because he's courtside, because he's rich, and the standard has been set that he's allowed to do stupid stuff, that he's allowed to touch coaches or players, because, hey, Drake can do it. And guess what? Drake's not the only one to get away with this stuff in the playoffs so far. Dame Lillard's family got away with it in the series against OKC. And I said then that stuff needed to be cut out, that it wasn't okay, it's not safe. It's against the policy. Not only did they attempt to enter the court, they got out of their seats and got in the damn dog pile that happened after the game. There's FaceTime and live from the damn court after the game. So you either have a problem with stuff like this or you don't. We see LeBron James come out and have his opinion come out this week, finally, what happens with Mark Stevens and Kyle Lowry. But Dame Lillard's family came out. Nobody said anything. Oh, it's just look how great, look how happy his sister is. Look at his brother in the damn dog pile. We've had a kid in Denver this year, if you guys remember that. Stands up on courtside, pushes Westbrook in the arm. Westbrook turns around, talks to him and his dad. Last year in Denver, Westbrook gets into something on the court with players. We have a fan in Denver who comes onto the court and squares up Westbrook, wants to fight. We had the brawl at the Palace. And it's not just an NBA issue. We see this throughout sports. We see people coming onto the field or doing stupid stuff on the sidelines. We see it at Little League games all the time. I was a witness at one of my Little League games to two parents on the same team stabbing each other. And this was back in the 90s. So this is something you either have a problem with or you don't. And I think there's a certain way you should be acting and conducting yourself when you go to see a sporting event. Being a fan, liking a team, spending all of your extra money to buy stupid stuff to support them, because that shows you're a great fan, does not give you the right to act like a complete asshat. Morals, decency, being a good person does not go out the window because you bought a ticket to a game, because you are a fan of a team, because you think you are being supportive of the team in some stupid way. I have no problem with trolling the other team. I have no problem with cheering for your team. I have no problem with you booing the other team as long as it's not when somebody got hurt. But putting your hands on the players, putting your hands on the coaches, pretending you are part of the action in some way is not acceptable. It needs to be gone. So Mark Stevens, he's been banned. He's been fined. That needs to continue. If you can ban a fan, if you're going to fine players, that needs to go for everybody. It is not connected in any way to how much money you make or how famous you are. If Drake needs to be made an example of, make an example of him. We didn't have this problem with all of the famous people who go to Lakers games. Excuse me. The closest thing we have to this is Spike Lee in New York. And really, his antics need to be toned down too, because there's times he's real close to getting into it. And players are spending too much time talking to Spike Lee and arguing with Spike Lee. If you got to get rid of those seats, guess what? I'm fine with that. They're just a stupid status symbol for people with money anyway. They're not great seats to watch the action from. You can't always see what's going on. It's like sitting behind the basket. If you're really there just to watch the sport, sitting close is not the best way to see it because you can't see everything that's going on. The higher up you get, the better you can see the game. Now, it might not be like the direct TV commercial. You might not be able to see all the sweat coming off their brow in the ninth inning. But there's no place for this in sports. The NBA fan code of conduct needs to be updated. It needs to be clarified, and it needs to put in there that it does not matter if you are the owner or a normal fan or whoever. If you do not abide by these rules, you're out. There needs to be a line before the sideline that fans know, here's your alley. This is a place you do not cross, even if you're courtside. And if you're going to have seats courtside, have a way for them to leave their seats without walking up and down the sideline. That's what I think. Other finals news? Hey, NHL finals, that's out there. You know, not having as much drama on that side unless you're hockey fans in St. Louis or Boston. St. Louis did go up 3-2 the other night. Game 6 tomorrow night in St. Louis. And if they don't close it out there, Game 7 will be Wednesday in Boston if Boston is able to tie it up 3-3. Other little stories out there this week. Carson Wentz gets $107 million guaranteed out of the $128 on his new deal. I'm not calling them contracts anymore when I refer to NFL. I will only refer to them as the deals that these two parties have. He's now signed through 2024 on this deal. It's going to provide some stability for this team. Some stability, especially at the quarterback position, because they do believe in this guy. So that's good. He's a young quarterback. We still think, for the most part, that his best ball could still be to come. We'll have to see. I think the loss of Frank Reich is a big deal for Carson Wentz and his development. I think that, hurt it some. As far as weapons, pretty solid line. Jason Kelsey's going to be coming back at center. As far as weapons, or other linemen, you've got depth there at the guard tackle position. You've got Opeta, you've got Herberg, you've got Wisniewski, Pryor. So a solid offensive line still. You still got Jason Peters in the mix. You have players like Corey Clement, who's a nice change of pace back. Jordan Howard comes over. He's going to be your pounder. That guy who can really be in there 3 downs if you need him to. You've got right now on the team other guys that could be looking to make a splash, and Miles Saunders, Pumphrey, Smallwood, all at the running back position. Outside, you still got Zach Ertz, you still got Goddard, so you're solid at the tight end position. You got Richard Rodgers. I mean, this is a deep team at the tight end position, which is great for a quarterback, a young quarterback. You still have Aguilar on the roster. You still have a Whiteside. You still have Hollins. You add Deshaun Jackson as the guy who takes it off the top, which will do nothing but help a guy like Alshon Jeffrey run those intermediate and crossing routes and jump routes, because they're not going to be able to double team his side with Deshaun Jackson going deep. Charles Johnson comes over. Braxton Miller's on the roster right now. So they've got some options on the offensive side moving forward, with this young quarterback, with young running backs, with a talented wide receiver core, with good offensive line, with good tight ends. All looks good moving forward. A solid defense still for Philadelphia. So it's good news for this team that's going to have to compete with the likes of Dallas. Washington's going to make noise. They probably don't really compete in that division. And who knows what we'll get out of the Giants this year, who also have some young talent and some interesting pieces. We'll get more into our division breakup, obviously, closer to camp as we get into predictions and stuff at that time. Also, next week, I will start my position breakdown, best position groups around the NFL. I'm going to start with the defensive line next week. We'll do a top 5, bottom 5. I might go ahead and just rank all of them, but I'm going to mostly talk about the top 5 and bottom 5 defensive line groups in the NFL. In my opinion, starting next week, we'll work our way through every position group going in to the Hall of Fame game. Try and get all our predictions and position groups and all that kind of stuff done by then. And we're going to start talking more baseball next week. NBA Finals will be wrapping up. NHL Finals will be wrapping up. The sole sport going with action out of the Big Four will be baseball. So I'm looking forward to that. I've really been impressed with the Twins so far this season. We'll talk about that. The Rockies are starting to come around a little bit locally, so we'll talk about that. All kinds of storylines, really, we could get into baseball. One baseball story we'll talk about, just mention real quick before we get out of here today. The Mariners' Mitch Haniger has been placed on the IL with a ruptured testicle. Now, I did not see an article to see how this happened. I've just seen the headline. So I don't know if it was baseball related, if he was somehow hitting the cup, if this was something that happened outside of the game. But I feel for Mitch. I can't imagine the pain he went through on a ruptured testicle. Not sure what the rehab is on that, if you just go ahead and get the testicle removed, or if they somehow can repair the testicle. Then do you go with an implant? Do you get one of these little silicone balls just to balance out? What's going to go on there? So he's got some kind of a road ahead of him with this situation. He'll be out for the Mariners. Weirdest storyline I have seen in a while. Player being put on the IL for a ruptured testicle. But that's real talk. That's what we do here. I'm going to share my opinions. Get at me at www.realdealsportstalkwithkp.com. There's a link. You can let me know how I'm an idiot. You can let me know what you agree with. You can even let me know you want to be on the show and share your opinion. So until next time, just be real.